Hi guys, welcome to I don't know which episode of the 1976 TR6 on the Rusty Beauties channel, and we're finally able to work on it. I mean, we have the head, we have the injection system parts and all that, so it's time to start crack-a-lacking. I painted the head yesterday, I showed you how it came, right? So now it is ready to go. We're gonna dress it up, we're gonna install the valves, the rockers and everything, and we're gonna put it in the car so we can start putting the water pump and the rest of the components that we were waiting for, the intake manifold, exhaust manifold, etc, etc. So without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking. Oops. Oops. Let's get crack-a-lacking. I like how they always machine this surface a little bit as well. For me, it is nice and flat. Alright, so here's our head. I cleaned up a little bit the threaded holes here on this side and on the front here for the water pump. I also cleaned this surface a little bit because there were some dried out, like deposits from when they, I guess when they washed the head and it just dried out. And like here, for example, there's still some. So I used WD-40 and Scotch-Brite to clean anything that is not supposed to be there. There was a little bit of a oversprayed paint here from me from last night. So clean this up as well. So here are the new valves. Let's just quickly test them. I'm gonna put WD-40 for now, just to have some lubrication between the valve and the stem. I'm sure, oops, that's the wrong one. I'm sure they're good from the machine shop, but just wanna enjoy for a moment the tightness. What should we call it? The fit. Yeah, absolutely no play. Wow. So good to work with new parts, right? Okay, so in this case, let's start assembling. I'm gonna get ready with my special tool here, and we're gonna start assembling everything. I'm gonna assemble one cylinder, and for the rest I'm gonna put you on time-lapse mode. All right, so here is all the old hardware that we are not gonna use because, as you know, we have a GP2 camshaft in this engine from Good Parts, and this camshaft requires heavy duty springs or high lift springs actually. So these are dual springs, high lift for GT6 TR250 TR6. Place these centering washers under the inner spring. Do not use the inner spring spacer from original dual set or centering washers from original single spring. So we had dual springs here and we had these washers that were going under the inner spring, but we're not going to use those. So we're only going to use the caps that we need to take out and clean actually. You see, because I knew that I was going to use new springs, I didn't clean up anything. Okay, I'm going to get ready and I'll come back. Okay, so clean these up more or less and organize them. So the intake valves only have one collar on the top. The exhaust valves have this split collar. I don't know why that is, but it is made out of two parts. So on both ends we have exhaust, and then we have two intake, two exhaust, two intake, two exhaust. That's how things are here, right? These are the exhaust, and then we have two, and two. So by organizing my parts in advance, I don't really need to think too much about it. So now let's take these out as well. Let's put them on so we don't forget. Okay, and then we have inner and outer springs. Some springs, I don't know if the old ones are like that. No, on TR4, for example, once upon a time I made a mistake and I put the springs upside down. I didn't know that they have difference. So they have tighter coils on the bottom and wider on the top. So they had direction. These ones don't. Looks like they can go either way. And I'm sure if there was a difference, it was going to be mentioned here in the instructions, because Richard Good is good like that. He always makes really clear instructions. Okay, making sure that the outer springs are not stepping on top of the washers. All right, so let's start. First, we're gonna make sure that the valve stems are nice and clean. Put some assembly lube on it. Then we take the first collar and the second collar, then our trusty homemade spring compressor. Oops, that went too far. Oh, my magnet is not here. Okay. Okay. And number one is in. At the end, we're gonna go and give them a little tap with a rubber mallet. I get criticized when I don't do that. Now, number two has this type of upper collar. Okay, oops. And that's it. Cylinder one is done. I'm gonna put you on time-lapse mode for the other five, sorry. All right, they all went where they're supposed to be. And let's just double check that they are where they're supposed to be. Yeah, that looks great. I was worried that the intake on number 5 was going to be too deep because it needed to be ground a lot because of the damage here, but actually it is just fine. Okay, so I'm not gonna forget, don't criticize me yet. Apparently we have to give them a tap like this with a rubber mallet, so the springs and everything, if there's something that doesn't fit properly, they're gonna saddle, apparently, so we do that. There's sometimes, you know, the keepers or the collets don't fit inside the little channel in the groove of the valve, and that's why they recommend doing that. So let's do it once again. I like it actually. All right, now let's put the studs for the cover first, because they go right here in between, and sometimes after you put the rocker shaft and everything, it's hard to reach there and tighten these nuts. So normally actually these are just studs with nuts on them. Some of them are just, you see this one is turning. So when you put them down there, it's good to just jam the nut into the head. See, it's much easier to do it now, because after, when we have the nuts here, this is the hole for the head stud. So when we have the nut here, the only way is to reach from here, but you can't put the wrench this way because of the nut here. So that's the only way, but you don't have enough swing here. So it is much easier and better to do it now. Ask me how I know. Next, let's put the studs for the rocker shaft. The studs have a long side and a short side, the thread, so the short one goes in the head and it goes all the way as far as it can go. Okay, it's time for the head gasket, which in this case has marks top. But if it doesn't, I always go with the direction of this tab here, which matches a tab on the block. If you flip it upside down, the tab comes in the front and there's no tab there. The holes on the gasket are not referenced because I don't know why they make them this way, but the oil hole, for example, this is where the oil comes for the rockers and it goes through this little hole. Well, you have the same hole here for whatever reason. So even if you put the gasket upside down, you don't block that hole. So they made two of these. So one of them goes in the front where it has absolutely no purpose. But this tab is always a good reference. So that's how it goes. And this is a gasket for recessed block. So you know how you have a recess here on the top of the cylinder. This is a gasket that matches this, because early engines, I believe, they don't have that recess, so you need a special gasket for no recessed block. So yeah, everything else matches. All the holes match. There are some of these holes that don't have a reference hole on the head. Again, I don't know why, but that's how they are designed. So all the studs are installed. Two of them are longer, and I can't tell, for the life of me, I can't tell why they are longer. Somebody was telling me before that it is because of, it has something to do with the air pump for the late engines, but even the engines from before 70 in 69, they also had these long studs when they were not even aware that a few years later they're gonna add that air pump there. And also it has nothing to do with the lifting points. The lifting points are here and here, so has nothing to do with that. So we had that discussion before in my videos, and I don't think that anybody came up with a reasonable explanation where these two studs go. I usually put them here and here, but I don't know. I also made sure that all the tappets are installed. The two in the front were installed from when we did the timing, and the other 10 I just put in. That's critical. Don't forget that, because if you forget it, then you can put them after that. The push rods can be put later, that's not a problem. So I think we are ready to throw the head on. And as you notice here, I didn't use any gasket maker or anything like that. I cleaned the deck, made sure that we have no dust. I'm gonna clean again one more time the surface of the head to make sure that there's nothing there. And then I'm gonna bring it and drop it. Now it's gonna be tricky here because it's heavy, and I should be able to do it. It would be nice if there was someone on the other side to help me. Normally I'm much closer to the engine when I do that, but now because we installed the block in car, now it is gonna be harder. Maybe I should step inside. I don't know. We will try. That's heavy. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. No, that's not possible. I can't do that like that. I need to step inside. Okay, that's better. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it for a second like that. I don't want to scratch it. I should have removed the battery, you know? Well, too late now. Okay, that's it. Now I can see the studs through the holes. There you go. Okay. Whew. Nice. Okay. Don't tell Tom that I stepped on his freshly painted engine. Now I'm gonna have to clean it. No one knows. Perfect. So now we're gonna put the hardware on and then we're gonna torque it. We're gonna go on 4 steps, 3 steps actually. So the spec is 80 foot-pounds, but we're gonna go to 50 first, and then second time to 65. Wow. And the third time we're gonna go to 80. And we're starting from the center, that's the pattern. The center, and then we go from the center out. So in like a spiral motion. So you see, we started from here, we went here, 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 and now we go here, and we're gonna go here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. You get it? Yeah. Okay. Now we're gonna go to 65. Okay, and now 80. Okay. Whew. And now we're just gonna double check them one more time, because sometimes when you go down with this one and this one, the one in the middle becomes loose. All right, so everything is torqued. Now we can put the rockers. Well, of course, we have to put the push rods first and then the rocker shaft. We can install now the coil. We need to assemble the water pump together because the body is separate from the water pump. We're gonna put them together, and that long pipe needs to be put on first so we can run it in the back. And then on this side, we can't forget this, the plug for here. We don't have a petcock, we have a plug for there. We're gonna put that on, and then we can put the intake and the exhaust manifolds here, all the studs and all that. And yeah, that's the plan next. I don't know how much of that I'm gonna show you. Maybe for the little things I'm not gonna hold you here. I might just be giving you updates every once in a while because I don't want to hold you here for all these things. All right, so a little bit later, and we have the water pump installed. So I put it together. The actual pump was off the body, so I put it together on the bench, and I put the pipe that goes underneath on the pump. And this pipe has these 2 ports at the end and this mounting bracket that goes to this boat. So one of the 2 ports is for this return from the heater core inside. This is what goes into the heater, this is what goes out and goes to this pipe. And the other port on this pipe goes into the intake manifold, which is not mounted yet. The exhaust manifold is mounted, and I mounted it with the 4 short studs. So these 4 are short. The long ones, they are significantly longer. They're longer because they have the footballs, and they go in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations, because the football holds at the same time the intake and the exhaust manifold when the intake goes there. So I just wanted to show you where we are at before I continue with the intake manifold. Here we also have the return pipe from the radiator that goes back into the pump. So it is connected down there and then into the pipe, and then it goes up and goes back into the pump. That's the return line. That's where the hot water goes out, and that's where the cooled down water goes back into the pump and then through the system again. So these hoses, I keep them in the plastic. They are tight and all that, but I keep them in the plastic because they get dirty so easy. I mean, it's not hard to clean them after with clean towel and a little bit of brake clean. They clean up, but it's good if we can keep them clean for now. And yeah, next, the intake manifold with the 2 carburetors. We haven't touched them. We don't need to, because after the initial startup of the engine, we're gonna use them as throttle bodies, as you know, and not carburetors, so they don't need much servicing. The rocker shaft also, yeah, I didn't tell you about that. So I installed the rocker shaft as well, and I loosened all the nuts here in the back, all the adjusting screws here in the back. So now we have big backlash on some of them. I loosened them because we're gonna have to adjust them. I didn't want some of them to press too hard on the valves, too far down, so they're all loose. And eventually we're gonna adjust the valves soon. The problem is now I don't have a fan to spin my crank with, so I'm thinking this time what I'm gonna use is the nut on the alternator. I'm gonna put a ratchet there. I don't know, it's a freshly rebuilt engine, so it might be tight. We'll see what we're gonna do. Anyways, I'm gonna continue. I'm not holding you here because it's just simple things. There's nothing special. And I'm gonna bring you back for 2 things here when we're there. When we're installing these holes on the top, we're gonna have to cut it in the middle and put our thermostat for the electric fan. And we're gonna have to install a rising block here for the injection system. We don't need it for now, but I don't want to assemble the thermostat and then take it apart again to put the rising block. It's not going to be in our way, so we're going to put it in there. And before we put the downpipe of the exhaust, we're going to have to weld a bunk there for our O2 sensor. So these are interesting things that I'm going to bring you back for. Other than that, everything is pretty straightforward here, so I'm not gonna bother you with those. Alright, so it's 3 days later. I mean, there was a weekend in between the last footage that you saw and this one. And I don't even know what I've shown you, what I haven't, but I'm just gonna go through everything here. On this side, I don't think there's anything new, other than the belt is not put on the alternator as well, and it is tightened. All the hoses are now in, except the one that is going to go from the housing to the radiator. That's where we're going to put our thermostatic switch for the fan. The exhaust manifold is on, the intake manifold is on. All the hoses now for this canister are connected, even though they are all cracked here, so that might be a problem for vacuum leaks. So we'll see, we might just remove them for now and cap them, and then we're gonna find new hoses to use there. The choke cables are connected, even though we're gonna, after we convert it to injection, we're gonna remove the chokes, but for now we need them. The fuel supply is connected for now here. This is gonna be removed as well at some point, and the rest is not connected because we won't need it. But actually I'm going to connect it now because I put the fuel pump temporarily here, because that's how we're going to start the car, with this fuel pump. But we're not going to connect it to the tank. We're going to just put a hose here and we're going to put it inside the fuel canister. So I'm going to dig out the line that comes from here to there, so we can connect the fuel supply to the carburetors. And yeah, we are close to starting it. I only need to install the downpipe for the exhaust, but I need to weld a bang for the O2 sensor on it. So that's not going to be part of this video. I'm going to weld it, I'm going to film it, but I'm going to keep that footage for the TBI installation video series. And what else is left is to adjust the valves now. They are all, I left them all loose, so they are all over the place, because, you know, we replaced the rocker shaft with a new one, and we also have a new camshaft, so the settings wouldn't be even close to what we wanted them to be. So we're gonna have to adjust the valves, and I wanna do a little bit more detailed view on that, not on the actual valve adjustment. Yeah, you know, here you put a filler gauge, or there are other ways too. John Mooney at Planet 6 Parts has an interesting video about using a dial gauge here for the Lash, but that's not my point. I want to explain a little bit more when you can adjust a valve. Like, the simplest way is top dead center, right? When a cylinder is at top dead center on the firing stroke, that's when both valves need to be closed, and that's when you adjust the Lash. Let's say right now we are at top dead center, I believe, on first cylinder. I'm not really sure, but let's say this is the top dead center of the first cylinder. In this position of the crankshaft, both these valves are fully closed, and we can adjust the Lash. And we know that on the next turn, so if we make one more revolution on the crankshaft and come back to the top dead center, that's when we can adjust sixth cylinder. Okay, that's good, but how do we find out the top dead center of the other four cylinders? Because they're not even at bottom dead center. On four-cylinder engines, they are at a bottom dead center. 1 and 4 are at top dead center, 2 and 3 are at bottom dead center on 4-cylinder. But on 6 cylinders, we don't even have a firing cylinder on bottom dead center, because they are 120 degrees. Every 120 degrees on the crankshaft, we have a cylinder that fires. On top dead center, cylinder 1 fires, 120 after top dead center, cylinder 5 fires, then we have another 120 from there, which is 60 degrees after bottom dead center, or that's 120 before the next top dead center, that's when cylinder 3 fires, and then at top dead center, cylinder 6 fires, and then we have 2 and 4 at another 120 and 240 degrees. But the problem is, again, on the pulley, we only have a mark for top dead center. We don't have degrees, so we can't do that. Well, it's very easy. We can measure the circumference of the pulley and divide that by 3, and starting from top dead center, we can make a mark at, I believe it was just shy of 7 inches, and then another. But let's do that actually. Let's measure it and put a mark on the pulley. Well, look at that. We have the old pulley here, so we can easily measure the circumference. And I'm gonna use my sewing measuring tape. 20 and 5/8 divided by 3, that's 6 and 7/8, right? We're losing 1/8 from the 7 of each 120 degrees. So that would have been a good idea to do, and I always forget to do it, but it's a good idea to do before we install the pulley on the car. I put a ratchet here on the alternator, and because we don't have spark plugs right now, I'm able now to turn the crankshaft with this, which is good. So now I have a mark here, the top dead center. I'm actually gonna make that mark a little bit thicker. Again, that was gonna be a really good idea to do when the pulley was not on, but anyway, I can still see it here on this side. I know you don't. 6 and 7/8. And now what I'm gonna do, actually, I'm gonna turn it the other way around, and we're gonna go that way this time. Okay, so if we go to top dead center, that's when we adjust number 1. Then we go 120 degrees later, we adjust number 5 here. Then we go to the third mark, that's where we adjust 3. Then number 6, and then 2 and 4, of course. So that's my preferred way. And to be honest, we don't even need to be at the exact top dead center. We have lots of room there to wiggle. We can go from probably 30 degrees before top dead center to 30 degrees after top dead center, or our other two marks to adjust these valves. And let me explain to you why. So here's the degree wheel, and here's our pointer, and here's our spec. So this is for this camshaft, because we have a GP2 camshaft from Good Parts. This is our spec. When the intake opens, when the intake closes. So let's start with the exhaust. So exhaust starts to open 69 before bottom dead center. So we're turning this way, and this is our bottom dead center. So 69 here, 69. So somewhere here, our exhaust starts to open. So in fact, the camshaft starts to push the push rod a little bit earlier than that, but the first, say, 10, 20, whatever degrees go to take out the lash, the 10 thou lash, and then it starts to actually push on the valve. So let's say it's a little bit earlier, so let's go with 90. Instead of 69, let's go with 90. 90 degrees before bottom dead center, the exhaust starts to open, and it closes at 29 after top dead center. So here it starts to open, keeps opening, keeps opening, keeps opening, and somewhere here it is fully open. And then 29 after top dead center, so we go all the way to the top dead center, and 29 after, and again, because of the lash, we're going to give it a little bit more, maybe somewhere here, the exhaust push rod is all the way down and it doesn't move anymore. Now let's look at the intake. The intake opens 29 before top dead center. So as the exhaust was still closing on the other side before top dead center, the intake already started to open. So again, because of the lash, we're going to give it a little bit more, and now it starts to open. That's the intake. It opens, it opens, it opens, it opens. 110 after top dead center is fully open, and then intake close at 69 after bottom dead center. So now from here it starts to close and keeps closing and closing and closing and closing, and 69 after bottom dead center. So here, but again, we're going to give it a little bit more because of the lash. Somewhere here, 90, the push rod of the intake is also all the way down and it's not moving anymore. When any of the two push rods is going to start moving again? Well, when the exhaust starts to open, right? And we said that the exhaust starts to open at 69 before bottom dead center. So from here, I'm going to put my finger here, all the way to here, which we said 69, we're going to convert to 90 because 69 is here, but the push rod starts to go up earlier. So from here, between my fingers, from here to here, this is all this space. Both valves are fully closed and the push rods are not going anywhere. So not only at top dead center, but also here and here and here, anywhere close to the top dead center is where we can adjust the lash on certain cylinder. And I'll show you also on the camshaft, the old one. So this one has a different spec, but it is close. So these are the two cams for first cylinder, let's say. So let's look at the intake. The intake, so we're turning this way. This is where the intake starts to open. Here it is fully open, then it starts to close, and it is closed, fully closed here. So from here, when we're totally off the lobe, and now from here we're on the circle part on this cam, so from here until the exhaust lobe starts coming up, so from to somewhere here, this is all space in which we can adjust our valves from here to here, which as you can see is more or less 90 degrees on the camshaft, but 90 degrees on the camshaft is equal to 180 on the crankshaft because the crankshaft spins twice as fast as the camshaft. Again, we're coming to this conclusion that 180 degrees on the crankshaft, 90 on the left and 90 on the right of the top dead center, we're totally safe to adjust the valves. So we don't even need to be so precise with the top dead center of the cylinder to adjust the lash in that position. Okay, so that explains this. Now let's talk a little bit about rule of 13 because that's another way to adjust your valves. So rule of 13 is basically the number of the valve that is pushed all the way down plus the number of the valve that you can adjust in this particular moment needs to add up to 13. So for example, let's say number 5, as soon as it is all the way down, that is when we can adjust number 8, because 5 plus 8 equals 13. And then we adjust number 8, we continue turning, and then at some point number 8 gets pushed down. If 8 is down, then we can adjust 5, because again 8 plus 5 equals 13. And it is the same with 1 and 12, because 1 plus 12 equals 13. So when 1 is down, we can adjust 12. When 12 is down, we can adjust 1. And then the same with the valves further in, 2 and 11. 2 plus 11 is 13, right? When 2 is down, we can adjust 11. When 11 is down, we can adjust 2. And the same with 3 and 10, 4 and 9, 5 and 8, 6 and 7, right? That's it. They just go closer and closer to each other, so you don't even need to do the math. You can just count whichever valve is down. Let's say number 3 is down, you count from the front, 1, 2, 3, right? Now you can count from the back as well. 1, 2, 3, that's number 10. So 3 and 10, again, 3 and 10 is 13. So that's a very simple way as well. Let's also demonstrate that on the actual camshaft again. So, random position of the camshaft. Which valve is open? Number 11, right? This is 1, this is 11. So when 11 is open, we need how many more to 13? 2. So when 11 is open, we can adjust number 2. And as you can see, number 2 is way off the lobe right now. It is in 180 degrees from the lobe. The lobe is pointing down. Same for number 8. Number 8 is fully open. 8 plus 5 is 13. So you see 5 is all the way down. So when these two are open, we can adjust these two. Then we continue going. Now you can see this one is almost there. It's going to be open soon. And this one is almost there. Now 1 and 3 are open. 10 and 12 can be adjusted. But again, you can count 1 from here, 1 from this direction, 1, 2, 3 from here, 1, 2, 3 from this direction. The next ones are this one and this one. So now we can count from the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 can be adjusted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is down. It can be adjusted. So just count from both sides and match them. So that's why the rule of 13 works. And in the past, I wasn't really convinced that the rule of 13 works very well, because how do you tell just by looking at the rocker of certain valve that it is fully open right now? But again, it doesn't really matter if it's fully open or almost open, because look at these two lobes now and look at these two, right? So these can be adjusted anywhere from here to here. You see, all this time the push rods wouldn't move. They would be all the way down. So you see, from almost open through completely open to a little bit closed after it's been open, through all this distance we can adjust the valve. So the rule of 13 can work perfectly fine. And by the way, for 4-cylinder engines it is the same, but the number is not 13, it is 9. We have 1 plus 8, or 2 plus 7, or 3 plus 6, or 4 plus 5. It all equals to 9, and it is the exact same situation on the camshaft. That's how you adjust the valves there. Here it is rule of 13, there it is rule of 9. And one last thing I want to show you. This is the procedure in the manual. When certain numbers of valves are down, that's when you can adjust two other valves. Does it look familiar? Adjust 8 and 11 when 2 and 5 are down. Why? Because 8 plus 5 is 13 and 11 plus 2 is 13. So basically, they give you a simplified version of the rule of 13. Here is the same. 4 and 6 can be adjusted with 7 and 9 compressed, because 4 and 9 is 13, 6 and 7 is 13. And here we have 10 plus 3 and 12 plus 1, 2 plus 11 and 5 plus 8. And for the last round we have 7 plus 6 and 9 plus 4. And that's basically the rule of 13 again. Okay, so I hope that simplifies it a little bit, the rule of 13, the procedure in the manual, and also the 120 degrees of rotation here in the front. To be honest, I prefer the 120 degrees because I can just guesstimate where the 120 degrees is. I don't even need to have it exactly. I can count the numbers of the fins on the fan and divide by 3, no? And even if it is 10 and divide by 3 is 3.3, you can, again, you don't need to be perfect. You can guesstimate where 3 and a third distances between the fins are. But now when I think about it, the rule of 13 also works really well because it's pretty safe. Now we can see actually that these two valves opened a lot. So you know what? Let's go with the rule of 13. So now again, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can adjust this valve right now. And then 5, 6, and then 5, 6. We can adjust this one and this one. So let's do that. Now we have to be careful though with this particular camshaft because the lash here is different for intake and for the exhaust. So the valve clearance for intake is 15 thou, for exhaust is 17. So we have to be careful with that. Now to find out whether 4 and 6 are exhaust or intake, we can simply look at which port they line up with. So 6 is intake, 4 is exhaust right here. And there's always one of the two is exhaust, one of the two is intake. We can't have two intakes or two exhausts open at the same time. This one is our intake, this one is our exhaust. Let's adjust them. So intake was 15, exhaust was 17. Now the instructions don't state whether it is whether it's cold or hot. So I'm gonna do it cold, which is the normal procedure usually. For a fast throw camshaft, for example, for the TR4 that we installed with David in his TR4, the instructions said certain adjustment cold and then start the car, warm up, and then adjust it at hot to a different adjustment. But didn't make too much sense to me anyway, so we're gonna adjust them cold here since the instructions don't say anything. Intake 15. So this is intake. Let's adjust it now. Now, I don't like filler gauges and I know that other people don't like them too, but I find that the valve adjustment is best, is done easiest with filler gauges. I can put a link here to a video of John Mooney in Planet 6 Parts. He's done it with a dial gauge from underneath, from the face of the rocker, not on the top, because the top is round. We don't have a flat part here that we can reference to. But I think it's way too complicated for something that is not so important, because filler gauge, you can be off by half a thou maybe. Like sometimes it's tighter, sometimes it's looser, but the difference is probably half a thou. The error is probably half a thou. So I'm happy with filler gauges here. And I adjusted so many valves by now that my feeling is pretty good. Okay, I think this is good. So that's 15. And for the exhaust, I have to go to 17, right? So now let's go to the next ones. Let's see which ones are gonna start opening now. So this one is going down, as far as I can see. Which one is going down as well? This one. So 2 and 5 are going down, right? So again, I'm gonna go until they stop going down. Somewhere here, I think they're fully closed, they're fully open. And again, it doesn't really matter if we are a little bit before fully open or a little bit after fully open. It is anywhere in that neighborhood. So again, now let's count 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, this one, and 3, 4, 5, this one. So we have to adjust these two. This is our intake, this is our exhaust from this pair. Good. And 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't even know which number that is, but I'm assuming that's 8 because 5 plus 8 equals 13, right? And that was 11 plus 2, so 13 again. So 17 here. Okay, next. Which ones are going down now? I think it's going to be these two. Let's watch. No, these are coming up. So which ones are going down? These two? No. This one is going down. And this one. So 10 and 12 are going down. And this is where they stopped. So now we can adjust 1 and 3, right? 1 and 1, 2, 3. 1 and 1, 2, 3. 1 is our exhaust, 3 is our intake from this pair. And again, 1 and 12 equals 13, 10 plus 3 equals 13. So this is intake 15. One is exhaust, so 17. Okay. Next, which ones are going down? These two. 4 and 6. Remember, we adjusted 4 and 6 when 7 and 9 were open. So now we are coming to the other direction of this situation. 4 and 6 are open. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6 can be adjusted, which are 7 and 9. 4 plus 9 equals 13, and 6 plus 7 equals 13. Okay? Okay, I'm sure you get the idea. I'm not gonna bother you with the rest. I'll do it on my own, and I'll be back. Alright, so now let's go to top dead center and test everything with 120 degrees. So now we are at top dead center of number 6, looks like. Okay, so 15 for the intake. Good. 17 for the exhaust. Good. After 6 comes 2, right? 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. So 2 comes 120 degrees later. You can watch the mark here. So number 2, let's double check. Intake 15, exhaust 17. Okay, good. Next mark is number 4, right? After 2 comes 4. 4 is here, intake 15, good. Exhaust 17, good. After 4 comes 1, that's the other top dead center. So 15, 17, good. Another 120 degrees now, 1, 5. So 5 intake, 15, exhaust 17, good. And last but not least is number 3. Perfect. Okay, so our valves are adjusted. Alright, so in this case, I'm gonna install the thermostat and the housing and the hose here with the thermostat. On the other side, I'm gonna weld the bung on the downpipe and I'm gonna install the downpipe, but these are things that are related more to the TBI system. So I'm gonna film them, but I'm gonna keep that footage for that series. And then we're gonna be ready to pour the oil and prime the oil system. And maybe we can even start it. That's probably going to be tomorrow, but we are getting close to that. It is exciting. So anyways, I'm not going to show you here most of these things. I'm going to bring you for an update soon. Okay, so the rising block is installed and the details about that I'm going to show you in the next series where we're going to be converting this engine to injection. For now, I'm just going to tell you this is a block that rises the thermostat a little bit higher and allows us to have two ports here. One is for the temperature sensor for the TBI and the other one is extra, which we could have used for our fan here. We can install a thermostatic switch for the fan, but this fan by Revotech comes with this type of thermostat which goes on this hose. So here I just wanted to show you, I don't know where it went now. We run into a small problem, which is for 75 and 76 TR6, I believe, they modified a little bit the thermostat housing and the radiator. So on the early cars, the radiator output, or input actually, is just sticking out this way. It's like this long and that's it. The housing is this for 74 and earlier. So we have a totally different hose there. But here, because of the pump here, the air pump that was mounted in this area, now they couldn't take this shortcut and they modified the housing and the radiator and changed the hose. Now with the rising block, I'm not really sure if the bonnet is gonna close properly. I know that this style housing works well. The bonnet closes no problem because we tested it on another car, but here I'm not really sure, so we're gonna have to see. I guess we're just gonna assemble it like this now, and that's it. So when you use a rising block like that, what happens is your hose becomes a little bit short, but you can see how much it's going in here, and that's how much it goes in here. But it's because of the height, it becomes a little bit shorter. But the thing is, this thing adds a little bit of length. So if you don't have the rising block, you're gonna have to cut 1 inch away from the middle of the hose. But in this case, I think we're just gonna make one cut and that's gonna work just fine here. So like this. That actually worked really well. Okay, so I'm not gonna do the electrical connections now, or should I? Anyway, there's instructions here. We're gonna deal with that another time. For now, I'm just gonna leave this like that. We're gonna hook up, of course, when we start the engine, we're gonna hook up the electrical fan directly without thermostat, and we're gonna control it manually if we have to, or maybe we can just leave it on at all times to make sure we don't overheat. Or should we hook it up before that? Yeah, maybe we should hook it up properly so it comes on and off. Anyways, we'll see, but not now. Here also there's a screw that is adjusting your limits, the high limit and the low limit, I guess. But again, we're gonna deal with the instructions later. There's this little cup that goes over. We're gonna put it on. It says Revotech, nice. Made in England. Okay, and we're gonna move to something else. All right, so the downpipe is installed as well, and you can see where I mounted the O2 sensor, and it is perfect there. I mean, it's easy to take out if we need to be serviced or replaced, and still we have access to the starter motor there, and we're gonna be able to take it out if we need to. So that's done. More details in the series about the TBI conversion of this car. Alright, and with that guys, I think we should put an end to this video because it's becoming way too long. I don't even remember how it started. So yeah, we've done a lot of progress, and I've done a lot of progress that I haven't showed you yet. Oh my god, I hate how these green hoses get dirty. I'm gonna clean that anyway. Alright, so that's gonna be everything for today. Stay tuned for the next video, in which we're gonna finish what we have to finish in order to start the car, and hopefully we're gonna start it. I'm hoping that's gonna be an interesting video to watch, not because we have troubles, but because it's always interesting to start a car that an engine that's been completely apart. So that's gonna be everything for today guys. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing and supporting me. It is so appreciated. Your support is what keeps this channel going, so it allows me spend time editing videos, because this is something that takes a lot of time, and without your support I'm not gonna be able to afford that. I would spend all the time here in the garage working on these babies. Anyways, thank you guys for that. There's details in the description of the video. There's link to my Patreon page, link to a PayPal account where you can send your little donations if you feel like it, but if you don't, that's perfectly fine. You still have full access to everything. There's no VIP access here, there's no early access or anything. Everything is free for everyone, and if you feel like sending a few bucks to support the channel and to help me afford editing these videos, great. If you don't feel like it or you can't afford it, that's absolutely fine. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.